a gifted soul. A writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no! Pop, motherfucker, now she's gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired unfuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! You fuck around and find out it's what it is! Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect a shomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired unfuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! Fuck around and find out what that is!
Hey guys, welcome to the program. Will you please do me a finger? Will you please give me the finger, raise your finger, and share this program? Hit like, share, subscribe, whatever works best for you. We're going to be talking about in this episode the complete 180 that President Trump has facilitated when it comes to the oil-based economy. This is a big deal. It's going to affect everything, including the money markets. By the way, today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Gold Co. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Go to jovanlovesgold.com. That's where you get the information from the fine folks at Gold Co. that I've partnered with to bring you this information. And request your free gold and silver kit today, because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. It's not about you take and you empty everything you've got and you invest in gold and silver. That's not what it is. You should have just a bit, right? It's kind of what the system always has as currency. Everything's going to be going digital. It's going to be an issue. I just want you to understand how it all works. It's just filling out a form, getting the information, and it is that simple. Okay, here's what we're going to cover today. President Trump now might, in fact, be the king of the oil world. Share this program. I'm telling you, this is a big deal. You're going to want to understand what's going on and how it affects us. Hang tight. Be right back right after this.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians? The elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media. and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd. Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, guys, welcome to the program. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how President Trump is, well, now king of the oil world. I want to put this into context for you because you've seen many a supposed patriot, many a supposed influencer has spent the last couple of weeks bashing President Trump, telling you President Trump is senile, telling you President Trump is over, telling you President Trump needs to go. Now, part of the excuse they've used to do that is the fact that we have operations going on in Iran. Now, you need to understand that Iran has been at war with the United States for 47 years. They have threatened to obliterate us from the map, etc. They have been at war with us. We have not been at war with them. Now, President Trump did a defensive move and preempted that and went in there and, well, obliterated a lot of Iran. Now, I think GOP Inc. and Rhino Business Inc. thought it'd be a great opportunity to make people get upset at President Trump. In fact, I've had some of these discussions with conservatives that say a lot of people around them are complaining about the price of fuel. Now, I have a question for you. Do you believe, let's say, we'll just take the first one. Do you believe that screwing around with them, threatening to, and you'll answer in chat, screwing around with them, threatening to end America for 47 years is more than enough time? Just yes or no. Do you agree that it's more than enough time to allow these evil rat bastards to keep on operating that way? Yes or no? The next question I ask you is, if a country like that is an oil producing country and an oil shipping country, and we have to go in and do business to protect ourselves, you understand that for a certain period of time, it's going to artificially make oil prices raise. You understand that, right? Right? Yes or no? Now, here are people complaining about gas prices, but so few people know the truth. You know, we could have fuel that's not even 50 cents a gallon. Did you know that? If we just got rid of all the EPA and taxes crap, and by the way, since those regulations for refined gas went in, the environment hasn't changed one bit. If we could just wipe that off the map, we'd have fuel for 50 cents. We'd have diesel for 21 cents. Those are true facts. But see, nobody complains about the high gas prices where it's all synthetic, made up tax. You ever think about how many people fill up their car every day, transportation everywhere? Think about all those taxes. No, it just feeds a greedy system. Yeah. And nobody complains that California did this to us in the 70s by demanding all these different refined versions. And again, it didn't make any difference. But yet they have the highest gas in the nation. And so people will deal with that. I just want gas to be $3. I just want gas to be $2. But they'll never deal with the fact that we did it to ourselves. Or that we stopped drilling in America. Or that we wanted to save the one-eyed, one-tailed, left-footed lesbian beaver worm or somewhere, right? You remember way back when the Alaska pipeline was just going to kill the environment and it was going to kill the animals. You remember that stuff? So many people don't look back. The caribou population and the health of the environment went through the roof. You can look it up yourself. You know why it went through the roof once the pipeline was there, installed and running? Is because the flowing of the oil in the pipeline, which ran above the line, actually warmed it just enough that grass could continually grow under the length of the pipeline. And the caribou ate better than ever. Yeah, they never tell you that stuff. But see, this has been a long-term plan to hobble America, to make America dependent on other countries. Period. So right now, you're seeing a lot of these podcasters calling out President Trump. Well, it was Trump that assassinated Charlie Kirk, and he did it with this. Well, just all this crap coming out, and then Alex Jones going on Candace going on Alex Jones. Come on. I hope you see through this mess. But in seeing through this mess, the world has changed right before your eyes. Now, the media is more than likely not going to talk about it, but we told you this first, and we showed you what the strategy was. You might not have paid attention. I'll play it again at the end of the program. You tell me if it's come to fruition. Here's what we told you was going on.
Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if losing the war in Iran is exactly the plan? Let me show you something the media will never tell you. So everyone is saying Trump is destroying America. He is fighting an unwinnable war in Iran. He is threatening to invade with ground troops. He is pissing off NATO by threatening Greenland. He is picking fights with Canada, Mexico, Denmark, Colombia. JP Morgan says the world will run out of oil by mid-April. The global economy is about to collapse. Trump looks like the worst president in history, a complete buffoon, right? But what if that's the whole point? What if Trump wants to lose the war in Iran? What if he wants the American empire to collapse? What if he wants to destroy the global economy? Then he would be a genius. Let me explain. Right now the world gets 20% of its oil from the Middle East. Japan gets around 75% from the Middle East. India gets around 60%. China gets around 50%. Europe is also heavily dependent. But here's the thing, oil is not rare. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. Canada has massive reserves. United States has massive reserves. Trump just took over Venezuela in January. He's threatening to take over Canada. You see where this is going? If Trump closes the Strait of Hormuz by fighting Iran, the Middle East oil stops flowing, but North America is still pumping. Suddenly Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, they all would need American oil. And not just oil, fertilizer too. The nitrogen for food production also comes from the Middle East. If that's cut off, where do they turn? There are only two options, North America and Russia. Trump is making the entire world dependent on the resources he controls. Now here is the genius part. Who owns the most US debt? Who's financing America's $39 trillion? It's Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, UK, France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, the same countries that need Middle East oil. There's been this fear that these countries would stop buying US Treasury bonds, that they would move to gold or Swiss francs, that America's Ponzi scheme would collapse. But now they need American energy. They need American resources. They can't abandon the dollar. They are trapped. Trump just turned America's biggest weakness, its debt, into its greatest weapon. By starting an unwinnable war in Iran, he's forcing the entire world to depend on North America. This isn't new. Putin already proved that this strategy works in Ukraine. Russia has been fighting for 5 years. It's a slow grind, but it has restructured Russia's entire economy around war production, drones, ammunitions, and military manufacturing. Russia went from importing Iranian drones to making their own and now exporting them to Iran. Putin's plan was that the world is collapsing anyway, so why not build a fortress, make Russia self-sufficient, control the resources, and weather the storm? America saw this and said, we can do the same. Greenland for rare earth minerals, Canada for oil and resources, Venezuela for oil reserves, Mexico for manufacturing, Panama Canal for trade control. So maybe Trump is not being reckless. He is actually building a self-sufficient North American fortress while the rest of the world burns. So yes, Trump looks like an idiot. Yes, he's losing the war in Iran. Yes, he's destroying the global economy. But if the goal was to end the American empire and rebuild it for Americans, to make the world dependent on US resources while everyone else collapses, then Trump might go down as the greatest American president in history. Maybe the New World Order is dead, and maybe we are heading towards a Trump world order.
So you're beginning to now see what I had showed you before, and you probably hadn't heard it before. And now here we are. Chill goes up my spine. Now here we are living it. There are always different things in play, but I want you to remember GOP and warmongers and political parties, they need and want wars. They need and want control. And I told you what was going. I told you it was a complete restructuring based on business. But the system doesn't want people to have it on business. They want to keep the war stuff going back and forth. They want to have countries that have refugees so they can donate billions and steal. Africa, since the racket of Donate to Africa started, help them out of poverty, $1.7 trillion has been donated to Africa. When that started, poverty, just so you know, went up 400% because they realized they could make more money keeping people in poverty. They could raise more money, so they pushed it even harder and put more in poverty. Now they have about 150% more in poverty than when that started. That's the racket. And in order to bring this type of racket to its knees, you have to execute a completely different type of warfare. And that's what you're witnessing. So I want to unpack this for you to kind of help you understand where we are, what's up, etc. But that's why I asked you about your fuel. Do you really think it's okay to have a country out there that has weapons racing towards nukes for 47 years saying death to Americas and everything American financed terrorist? Do you really think that's okay? Do you understand that we've got to get out from under their control? And sometimes that takes measured patience and work. And yeah, you may pay a little bit more. You may pay a little bit more for your fuel for a bit. But that's why I said you excuse all the Obama stuff, the Bush stuff, California stuff. You excuse the racket. And because everybody loves to bitch about Trump, you hop on the we'll bitch about Trump. Do you think Trump did this? I think he's the only president that wants to undo it. And because people can't think long term, nobody likes going to the pump to make their house payment. You know what I mean when I say that. Nobody likes that. But in the scheme of things, it's kind of a necessary evil for a moment. But we never think about that. Because the system has taught us to only think about today, what we can consume, and that's it. We don't think about what it really takes to do, right? And what it takes to extract ourselves out of a racket that's been going on for decades. That's what's going on, to extract ourselves. So a little bit of a heads up on this. You can, this is the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this is the Maritime map version. That means what you see in gray is land. And they don't define the features on land because they really don't give a crap about the land. Okay? The white is the water. And they got to make that little curve there. That's the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? Now, one of the things that has happened since President Trump went into Iran is it opened up the way for, and a lot of people aren't paying attention. You know, Iran, even though they don't own this, Iran has bullied themselves into controlling that over the years, but they do not own it. And they were blocking stuff that you probably never paid attention to. You'll see again, look in the white, and you'll see that curve, okay? And that is basically, let me give you a little different picture that might help you here. Hang on one second. I'm going to find you a better shot that might help you understand what, because you're looking at maritime maps right here. I'll give you its equivalent in land. Okay, there's the Strait of Hormuz, same orientation. Okay, so they got to come up and around that Strait of Hormuz. Ooh. And so there's the various ships, loaded or unloaded. They have to come around through there. Now, what people probably missed is one of the things that was underway, and part of the challenges in the Middle East was this pipeline was being built. So there's the strait at the top. You see the little blue arch. But Saudi Arabia has been building a pipeline across their land. That pipeline goes across the Middle East Gulf, right? And you see a lot of that Middle East Gulf runs against Iran, but it goes against the Middle East Gulf, cuts across Saudi Arabia, and comes out in the Red Sea. Most people never talk about that. But that pipeline is what will end a lot of the hold of the Middle East oil. And now this will, the Intrapetroleum, the East-West pipeline, will also now very much be able to come on to full scale online. So instead of having the stranglehold, you'll see the countries here, Iraq, Iran, etc., right? Instead of having that stranglehold there, the country can deal with Yemen at the bottom, Ethiopia and Yemen. There'll still be a little issue with Yemen on the bottom, but it's much easier to deal with getting that out of the Red Sea or using the Suez Canal and getting around the world. It completely changes the landscape. Now, one of the things that the news is not talking about is the flow of super tankers. Super tankers are the big tankers that carry, I think, about 2 million gallons of oil at any one time. Super tankers are leaving the Middle East and coming to our ports now in the United States to fill their tankers. Let me make sure you understand this. We've been dependent upon the Middle East for a lot of things. The world, China manufacturing their products, depends on the Middle East. And a very interesting turn, because that's where China gets half of their oil, etc. Their tankers are now having to come to the United States of America to fill up. The entire flow has reversed. Now, this is a significant deal. This is a significant deal. It has changed everything. And let me ask you a question. Isn't this what you elected President Trump to do? You do understand that our borders went from like 79,000 people minimum a month to 0 border captures. 0. It instantly dropped. Why did that happen? Because he's taking care of the American people and did his job. Isn't that what you elected President Trump for? And so, yeah, your friends, your neighbor, your family right, are going to complain about the gas tank. We're going to complain a little bit about the gas tank so we can get to the point we stop complaining about all the stuff that's sick with America. This is what you hired the man for. Now, do you understand these supposed patriots coming out saying that President Trump's whacked and crazy's got to be removed, he's destroying America? You finally get the con. Don't you understand all that oil money flying, going to Iraq and Iran and stuff? Bad countries that kept terrorism going. Don't you understand that our American politicians have their fingers in that and get huge checks? They're only fighting for their BS checks they've been sticking away. Not for you, not for us, but the whole direction has changed. Now, you can go to marinetraffic.com. You can see this for yourself. The flow of ships has changed. The flow of tankers has changed. Many people are posting, you'll see it, and right here you kind of get a bit of the tanker's direction. Might be hard to read the Maritime's map, but basically they're leaving, they're completely bypassing. And you'll see up there on the right, they're completely now bypassing the Middle East, just coming directly to the Gulf of America. How ironic. Gulf of America. Now, some of these maps are hard to read. I'll give you a little coding. The blue dots are what's called dirty tankers. And by the way, you can go to the program. You can look at your own West Coast, East Coast, whatever. Go to marinetraffic.com. You can see this all on your own. Anything at any time it's going on in the ocean, you can see it. Now, in the next map I'm going to show you, blue are what's called dirty tankers. Crude, fuel, oil, etc. White are what's called clean product tankers, gasoline, diesel, etc. And then the orange are gas carriers, liquid propane, right? Liquid natural gas. Here's the traffic. And I know it's kind of hard in this one, but you can see it at Marine Traffic. Those arrows are pointing to us. And that's the difference in the tide. That's the difference. The chokehold of everything. Remember, our country moved manufacturing, politics, got to have unions, and all this other stuff, made it too costly to produce here in America. They ship it to China. They make us not drill for oil and power. We become dependent upon China. It was all a plan. Every bit of it was a plan. And now you're seeing it reversed, quite possibly for the first time in history, in a very serious way. Let's go to back to right at the beginning of April, what President Trump was saying.
The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before, should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the Strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing, and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days. We've done actually much better than I thought, but we had to take that little journey to Iran to get rid of this horrible threat. With our historic tax cuts, where people are just now talking about receiving larger refunds than they ever thought possible. They are getting so much more money than they thought. That's from the great big beautiful bill. Our economy is strong and improving by the day, and it will soon be roaring back like never before.
Nobody believed them, but I told you in advance of that what the game plan was.
Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if losing the war in Iran is exactly the plan? Let me show you something the media will never tell you. So everyone is saying Trump is destroying America. He is fighting an unwinnable war in Iran. He is threatening to invade.
Remember I told you part of the reason for Greenland? You'll hear these things calling out Cuba. You'll hear these things calling out Venezuela. You'll hear about him saying we're going to take in Canada, Alberta probably leading the way.
Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if losing the war in Iran is exactly the plan? Let me show you something the media will never tell you. So everyone is saying Trump is destroying America. He is fighting an unwinnable war in Iran. He is threatening to invade with ground troops. He is pissing off NATO by threatening Greenland. He is picking fights with Canada, Mexico, Denmark, Colombia. JP Morgan says the world will run out of oil by mid-April. The global economy is about to collapse. Trump looks like the worst president in history, a complete buffoon, right? But what if that's the whole point? What if Trump wants to lose the war in Iran? What if he wants the American empire to collapse? What if he wants to destroy the global economy? Then he would be a genius. Let me explain. Right now the world gets 20% of its oil from the Middle East. Japan gets around 75% from the Middle East. India gets around 60%. China gets around 50%. Europe is also heavily dependent. But here's the thing, oil is not rare. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. Canada has massive reserves. United States has massive reserves. Trump just took over Venezuela in January. He's threatening to take over Canada. You see where this is going. If Trump closes the Strait of Hormuz by fighting Iran, the Middle East oil stops flowing, but North America is still pumping. Suddenly Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, they all would need American oil. And not just oil, fertilizer too. The nitrogen for food production also comes from the Middle East. If that's cut off, where do they turn? There are only two options, North America and Russia. Trump is making the entire world dependent on the resources he controls. Now here is the genius part. Who owns the most US debt? Who's financing America's $39 trillion? It's Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, UK, France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, the same countries that need Middle East oil. There's been this fear that these countries would stop buying US Treasury bonds, that they would move to gold or Swiss francs, that America's Ponzi scheme would collapse. But now, they need American energy. They need American resources. They can't abandon the dollar. They are trapped. Trump just turned America's biggest weakness, its debt, into its greatest weapon. By starting an unwinnable war in Iran, he's forcing the entire world to depend on North America. This isn't new. Putin already proved that this strategy works in Ukraine. Russia has been fighting for 5 years. It's a slow grind, but it has restructured Russia's entire economy around war production, drones, ammunitions, and military manufacturing. Russia went from importing Iranian drones to making their own and now exporting them to Iran. Putin's plan was that the world is collapsing anyway, so why not build a fortress, make Russia self-sufficient, control the resources, and weather the storm? America saw this and said, we can do the same. Greenland for rare earth minerals, Canada for oil and resources, Venezuela for oil reserves, Mexico for manufacturing, Panama Canal for trade control. So maybe Trump is not being reckless. He is actually building a self-sufficient North American fortress while the rest of the world burns. So yes, Trump looks like an idiot. Yes, he's losing the war in Iran. Yes, he's destroying the global economy. But if the goal was to end the American empire and rebuild it for Americans, to make the world dependent on US resources while everyone else collapses, then Trump might go down as the greatest American president in history. Maybe the New World Order is dead, and maybe we are heading towards a Trump world order.
It's not 3, 4, 5, 6 dimensional chess. It's business. That's it. It's just running a good business. Always said long ago, before President Trump even ever mentioned he'd run for president and started it, what America needs is a businessman running it, not politicians. It needs somebody who knows how to grow things, not how to rape things. So you understand where the rest of the world is in this mess, because I don't want you just to think about what this does. And again, I was the first one to show you that. Here is the playbook. If everything goes well, here's what will happen. But I want to show you how other countries tie into this. And you got to understand, when they start turning to the U.S., that's when they kind of have to agree to our terms, or we won't play that game. I want you to understand where other countries stand in this.
Part of the explanation is the fact that various different countries around the world, in order to kind of be safe and secure, they tend to build up big stockpiles of things like kerosene and diesel and petrol. But the UK doesn't really do that. So this is showing you...
I want to correct one thing, and you're right. And then me. Part of helping people understand this is to communicate what's going on. So it's like hopscotch. If the bad guys are saying Trump is losing the war, even though Trump is winning the war and we are not at war, it's harder to convince some people we are at war when they can't see that Iran's been at war with us for 47 years. So you don't even try to tackle that. It's hard to convince people that Trump's losing, that he's not losing. It's very hard to convince people. You know that President Trump's not losing, but the world doesn't because of media. So you don't tackle those. You basically, that's a little bitty one. If they want to say that's losing it, that's losing it. And that's part of the strategy of just getting people to understand what's really going on. And so that when you kind of, and I know it's small, but let them think Trump's losing. In their mind, though, they will immediately go, Trump's not winning. Instead of fighting that fight, they'll look at this and go, wow, that makes sense. Wow, that makes sense. I didn't think about that. And that's where you need people's heads. And that's the psychology of that. But anyway, here's where the rest of the countries in the world fall in this mess.
Part of the explanation is the fact that various different countries around the world, in order to kind of be safe and secure, they tend to build up big stockpiles of things like kerosene and diesel and petrol. But the UK doesn't really do that. So this is showing you, the higher the bars are, and it's countries all around the developed world, the higher the bars are, the more months of stockpiles these countries have of kerosene, so they can survive, in the case of Japan, 27 months just on their stockpiles. Replace the imports with stockpiles. That's Japan over there, lots of stockpiles. Where's the UK? Well, we have to walk all the way over here. And there's Britain. 1 month. 1 month worth of stocks in the UK. It's actually 1.1 months, but nonetheless, a tiny, tiny fraction of safety measures in the UK. And, it comes back to this chart that I showed you, a kind of version of this chart the other day, that due to just the quirks of the refining sector, we're quite self-sufficient when it comes to petrol. It's part of why petrol prices haven't gone quite so much. We're not. We used to be quite self-sufficient when it came to diesel. And all this chart's showing you that if the line is in the blue area, we're producing more than 100% of what we need, basically. We used to be self-sufficient for diesel, and now we're not. But for kerosene, we've kind of always been dependent on imports. And part of the reason why ships like the Yasahawk are kind of waiting for that phone call from the broker, taking them to London, is because they know that London is one of the most exposed places, particularly I say London because Heathrow is the biggest airport, but nonetheless, the UK is one of the most exposed anywhere in the world when it comes to the price of jet fuel, and so we're willing, it seems, to pay the price. Now, I mentioned diesel, and I showed you that chart for kerosene a moment ago. Worth just asking the question, is it the same for diesel? Do we not have as many stocks when it comes to diesel? Well, I'm afraid the answer is kind of yes. Japan, 23 months worth of stocks of diesel, just in case of an emergency. And when I talk about stocks, this is fuel that is stored in refineries and fuel tanks around the country, not the stuff in the petrol forecourts, we'll come to that in a second. But in Japan, they've got 23 months there. The average, by the way, across the developed world, about 7 months. So if you're on around 7 months worth of your stocks, then you're kind of, you're on average. The UK, 1.5 months, 1.5 months. We're not the lowest, actually. Even more exposed is Australia. And that tells you something, doesn't it? Lots of frenzy right now in Australia and concern about what's going on with petrol and diesel there. They are more exposed. But the UK is basically close to the bottom when it comes to the size of our stockpiles versus what we need to import.
I think that gives you a good example of why you see UK government neighborhoods falling so fast. Why you see Australia with the vaccine falling so fast. They were taken over. And in that taken over process, it's all about weakening the country. I showed that to you because it shows you just how exposed these countries are. Then when you look at Japan, which says never again, we're going to take care of ourselves. We only worry about ourselves. Look what you have. Stability. See, that's called nation first. And that's a prime, and I'll put this over on my Telegram. It's a prime way to understand what's in play and how they're bringing countries down.
Boats are sailing up and heading out to our country. Big, beautiful tankers, and we're loading them up with oil and gas and everything else. And it's a pretty beautiful thing to see. Because of drill, baby, drill, we have more oil than Russia and Saudi Arabia put together. So if you look at Russia and Saudi Arabia, two big ones, we have much more oil than they have put together. And what's happening is boats are coming over here, filling up. We don't have to go through the Hormuz.
Plenty of it. I asked him if this is because Iran isn't opening up the Strait of Hormuz. We've been talking about that a lot, impacting the global oil supply. He said that it isn't because of that. He says that will open, quote, in the not too distant future, which is interesting, though, because that was a part of the ceasefire agreement. He said Iran's a failing nation. He also said, I think people are going to see there are other alternatives to going through the strait. I also asked.
A lot of stuff in play. Just like you just saw Hungary fall. And Hungary's the one place in Europe where they wouldn't take all the invaders and illegals and kept their country about them first. And then over the weekend, they'd fall. They got one of the globalists in. This is all planned. And this is why the system's fighting President Trump. And most of these rat bastards are doing it or thinking about their pocketbooks. Oh, you're going to be okay. You're going to live high on the hog. We got all this money stashed for you. You've got houses here. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And that's the con. One more time, I just want you to understand what's going on. I showed you this a while back. Most people did not believe it, but now you can see it in its full glory.
Okay, so what if Trump is not an idiot? What if losing the war in Iran is exactly the plan? Let me show you something the media will never tell you. So everyone is saying Trump is destroying America. He is fighting an unwinnable war in Iran. He is threatening to invade with ground troops. He is pissing off NATO by threatening Greenland. He is picking fights with Canada, Mexico, Denmark, Colombia. JP Morgan says the world will run out of oil by mid-April. The global economy is about to collapse. Trump looks like the worst president in history, a complete buffoon, right? But what if that's the whole point? What if Trump wants to lose the war in Iran? What if he wants the American empire to collapse? What if he wants to destroy the global economy? Then he would be a genius. Let me explain. Right now the world gets 20% of its oil from the Middle East. Japan gets around 75% from the Middle East. India gets around 60%. China gets around 50%. Europe is also heavily dependent. But here's the thing, oil is not rare. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. Canada has massive reserves. United States has massive reserves. Trump just took over Venezuela in January. He's threatening to take over Canada. You see where this is going. If Trump closes the Strait of Hormuz by fighting Iran, the Middle East oil stops flowing, but North America is still pumping. Suddenly Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, they all would need American oil. And not just oil, fertilizer too. The nitrogen for food production also comes from the Middle East. If that's cut off, where do they turn? There are only two options, North America and Russia. Trump is making the entire world dependent on the resources he controls. Now here is the genius part. Who owns the most US debt? Who's financing America's $39 trillion? It's Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, UK, France, Belgium, and Luxembourg, the same countries that need Middle East oil. There's been this fear that these countries would stop buying US Treasury bonds, that they would move to gold or Swiss francs, that America's Ponzi scheme would collapse. But now they need American energy. They need American resources. They can't abandon the dollar. They are trapped. Trump just turned America's biggest weakness, its debt, into its greatest weapon. By starting an unwinnable war in Iran, he's forcing the entire world to depend on North America. This isn't new. Putin already proved that this strategy works in Ukraine. Russia has been fighting for 5 years. It's a slow grind, but it has restructured Russia's entire economy around war production, drones, ammunitions, and military manufacturing. Russia went from importing Iranian drones to making their own and now exporting them to Iran. Putin's plan was that the world is collapsing anyway, so why not build a fortress, make Russia self-sufficient, control the resources, and weather the storm? America saw this and said, we can do the same. Greenland for rare earth minerals, Canada for oil and resources, Venezuela for oil reserves, Mexico for manufacturing, Panama Canal for trade control. So maybe Trump is not being reckless. He is actually building a self-sufficient North American fortress while the rest of the world burns. So yes, Trump looks like an idiot. Yes, he's losing the war in Iran. Yes, he's destroying the global economy. But if the goal was to end the American empire and rebuild it for Americans, to make the world dependent on US resources while everyone else collapses, then Trump might go down as the greatest American president in history. Maybe the New World Order is dead, and maybe we are heading towards a Trump world order.
I think you can maybe clearly see it now. All the pieces, what it does. Don't forget, thanks for reminding me, but within a month, Jerome Powell at the Fed's gone. Imagine what that will do for the economy and everything going on. And then, yes, there's a lot of questions, a lot of conflict, a lot of people just not understanding what's going on. I'll give you an example. Isaac, I guess, asked, well, then why is Israel still bombing? Why is Israel bombing Lebanon? Well, see, the ceasefire didn't include Lebanon. And the reason the ceasefire didn't include Lebanon is because you have to understand, what people don't understand is Lebanon is Hezbollah. Most people don't even know that. Hezbollah is so entrenched in Lebanon, which used to be a great country, just like Iran, but Lebanon fell too, right? To the caliphate's theocracy. Hezbollah is so entrenched in Lebanon that it runs an equal in size shadow economy and government. Hezbollah in power, strength, money, funding, and everything is equal with Lebanon. That is where the seat of a lot of this goes. And don't forget that it's Iran that is the primary funder of Hezbollah in the Lebanese state. You don't understand the connection? They would get all the fighters from Hezbollah, train them, put them in Lebanese, recruit from Lebanon because they were controlling Lebanon. That way Iran can say, well, we didn't do this. We didn't do this. We didn't do it. It's all smoke and lie. All smoke and lies. And then Lebanon, their Lebanese armed forces is just kind of a joke, right? Just kind of a joke. And that's why Lebanon right now is still under attack. If you leave Lebanon's Hezbollah intact, Israel's still doomed. That's why that wasn't in there specifically. That is why there is still bombing and attacks going on. And it's been going on forever. That's how Syria was involved storing munitions and stuff. So other states can say, well, we don't have chemical weapons, when all the time they just stored them across the border in Syria. It's all incestuous relationships, wordplay. That's the deal, folks. And so I want to let you know, when you see people bashing President Trump, saying President Trump's got to go, my gut is you're seeing people that are either operatives, paid off, or bought off. That's it. President Trump got bit by the system first time round. In many ways, he still fights all that. Could you imagine if he was really free to function for our country, how good we'd be going? But that's why, even with all the media spent for it's the machines, melt them to prison bars, and everybody forgets. Look how many people forget. Oh, we have it all votes, all counties. Here it is. And it's a lie. But yet that guy's running for governor. People forget. They never audit themselves. It's just who can promote the best. And that's what the system's built on. That's what the system is built on. Now, all of these things cannot be dealt with at once, but you see a lot of things falling and coming into play to make things happen. And Iran was never going to come to the table and say, we're going to give up nukes. Never. Why? Because you have administration after administration after administration after administration that capitulated and didn't do anything. And you know why they do that? Because they know the American public inherently is weak, and they'll be complaining for two reasons. We can't be in a war. We're not doing this. Oh, poor people. My gas price is going up. We don't have what it takes to win as a people. World War II, we won because everybody dug into their barns and basements and everything else and pulled out metals and cans and pieces and turned them in. And the women went to work in the factories to make sure the things cranked out. We all pitched in because we were a nation then. Now we're bitchers and moaners that have no background on why you got to kind of buckle down and go through these things. And so the number one cure, and you need to understand this, is also the most dangerous weapon. What's the number one cure? Us. What's the most dangerous weapon of making America fall or being turned against bad guys so we win? Us. Also, people think, well, why do we have Pakistan negotiate? You think we chose that? Is that how you think negotiations go down? You actually think President Trump goes, let's go negotiate in Pakistan. To negotiate anything, you have to have two parties, which means you have two says. Is it about getting to the negotiation? Or is it about, well, I want it to be this country? Well, it's not about the country. The first thing you want to do is get them to the table. They chose Pakistan. They chose Pakistan. Why? So they would be among people who felt like them and would protect them and nothing would happen to them. So you actually think that President Trump just, well, we'll go do it in Pakistan. We have no say. But see, it's not about quibbling over what little country it's going to be in. You get relatively safe. You do it. You get them to the table. Because it's about getting them to the table. Iran's playing out a 47-year track record of what works. They're playing out 47 years that gets them billions in midnight flights on planes. Is it profitable for them to stall and delay? Just a question. Is it profitable for them to stall and delay? Yes, it is. Because it's always been profitable for them. So we have to wait it out. We have to work through it. And so what? The media says, well, JD chose Pakistan. What media? Okay, let's see. JD's sitting here. We can go to, I'll blow up your Assistan. I'll assassinate your Assistan. I'll cut your head off, fucking-istan, or Pakistan. Which one you want to go to? Nobody asks questions. Nobody thinks through this logically. But JD chose it. Everything is weaponized against your mind because not only you're the cure, you are the destructive bomb that will tank it all. If they can convince you, oh, my gas is too high right now. Think about that. Think about that. Just think about that for a moment. It's uncomfortable having to deal with this. Okay, so you give up coffee, you give up a few smokes, you give up a few 6-packs of beer or whatever, and you buckle down a bit. But whether you like it or not, we're all in this. And the easiest thing to do is bitch and moan. The hardest thing to do is get an education to understand and to have what you're supposed to have, discernment in how all this works. I just try to bring clarity. We don't have to have consensus. Maybe you will allow Iran to exist, Iraq to exist, and America to be dependent on their oil so you don't have to pay more at the tank for a period of time. Okay. Well, then start waving your Palestinian flag around. Put on your little checkered necktie, go in the streets and protest with everybody else. At least you'll be on the side that your bitching and moaning agrees with. You'll be among friends that this is wrong. But you know what? You know what the difference is that we're going through? We're going to go through a little pain. It's going to hurt. It's going to cost every one of us. Nobody escapes it, not even the rich. Nobody escapes it. It affects everything. But could you imagine what freedom will be like on the other side? Oh no, I can't, because my gas costs me too much. I can't think about freedom on the other side. It's horrible. I went into the gas station and I paid $30 for gas and $27 for my pack of cigarettes. It's driving me nuts. I don't know what it is. It's fucking gas. A lot of things going on. For those that have them, balls, use them. For those that want them, watch the show and get informed. And for those that need them, well, grow a pair. Because this is war, baby. And we are all in this together. Share this program. Love you all.
Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. by God and always do what's right. In the battle for our nation, you lead the fight. We pray for your safety, the armor of God to protect you from all of us. Here's a thank you for all that you do. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you, for me, for our country. You'll go down in history as our warrior. Jovan, you're a hero we stand behind. We're inspired by the fire inside your eyes. American proud, we know you'll fight till your dying day. And we'll always stand behind you through everything. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you.